On the show in Wheelspin, we drive the latest Rolls-Royce, the Wraith. In Wheelspin, we also ride one of the fastest production bikes, the Kawasaki Ninja 14R. And on the road, we drive the Hyundai Grand i10 to Coonoor.
What I have here with me today is a Rolls-Royce. Not only it's a Rolls-Royce, but it's the latest one. This car was launched just last year. Yes, the Wraith. And if you look at the design, you'll realize how different she looks really from a traditional Rolls-Royce. Well, the sloping roof tells you the story of its own, and so does this door. In fact, this is shaped and built like a coupe and is meant more for performance than sheer luxury. This is a car which will compel you to move from the back seat to the driver's seat and actually drive the car. That's the intention of Rolls-Royce here, and I think they have done a very nice job of it. But it's time for me to get inside and see how luxurious it really is.
Rolls-Royce as a brand has never been synonymous with overt power. Instead, they have been about luxury and craftsmanship, which for almost a century has made it the most hallowed marquee in the automotive world. Cars which have stood as benchmark for automotive engineering, providing the ultimate pampering to its ultra-rich clientele across the globe. And the Wraith does not in any way deviate from this philosophy. Instead, it has only added another dimension: driving pleasure if you do decide to seek it.
Step into the Wraith here, and you don't really need this logo here to tell you that you have stepped into a Rolls-Royce. Everything here tells you what the Rolls-Royce brand really stands for: immaculate build quality, luxury, and of course elegance. Look at the dashboard here: shiny piano black, top-notch leather, nice steering wheel which of course is leather wrapped, and everything which tells you that you are driving a car which has set the benchmark for many years for other automobiles in the world. It's really nice, it's elegant, and it's full of luxury.
A Rolls is a Rolls is what they say, and one look at the Wraith perhaps justifies this saying. Finest quality leather sourced from cows which are bred at an altitude, so no mosquito can flaw their skin. And after this is sourced, it is treated at length and then laser cut and hand stitched to give it the quality finish. And by the way, cowhide is not the only choice you'd have available. You can choose the option of an alligator skin or even the Angora rabbit fur if you so desire. And then for the wood inside, it's 26 veneers that Rolls-Royce will offer you. And for the paint outside, you can choose from just 45,000 shades that the company offers you. And if you are really fussy about it and you want your lipstick color shade to match the paint job of your car, then Rolls-Royce says they will be too happy to do it for you. After all, anyone who pays so much for a Rolls-Royce can be fussy.
Only time I might have a quarrel with the Wraith is if I have to get into the back seat. This is a rather tedious process. I have to move the seat up front, then fold it, and then swing myself into the rear seat. And once you are here, of course, you are greeted with luxury, top-notch leather, air conditioning, name it, and you got it. But the problem is, if you are a 6 feet plus guy and your passenger also happens to be one, and once you fold the seat back, then you would be really squeezed for space. And that's not like a Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce is also meant for luxury as well as plenty of space. But in this car here, you might be a bit tight in the back seat.
Yes, shaped like a coupe does have its disadvantages, but being bad looking is certainly not one of them. The Wraith, in my opinion, is one of the best looking Rolls-Royce to have emerged in a long time. Sure, if you are built like a sumo wrestler, you might not have enough choice but to park yourself in the front seat. But then it's a small price to pay something which looks as gorgeous as this. The Wraith is built in the new Rolls-Royce factory in Goodwood, which was commissioned soon after BMW bought Rolls-Royce in 1998. And this is easily one of the best motor car producing factory, where a large portion of the cars are virtually handcrafted.
The Wraith does come with its own idiosyncrasies, like this door here. This is a huge door which opens from the front, or what we used to call in earlier days the suicide door, with this mirror mounted here. And this really gives the car a very different look. But at the same time, it also comes with the precision engineering that Rolls-Royce is famous for, and this reflects itself nowhere better than on this wheel. If you take a look at this logo, the RR or the logo stands upright no matter in which position the car is parked, and that's typically Rolls-Royce.
And if you do decide to buy a Rolls-Royce, then the company proudly tells us that no two Rolls-Royces are the same, which means that you can customize it according to your taste and the size of your wallet. Rolls-Royce offers the bespoke program for this, and the list of customization options is a long one, starting from the paint job, upholstery, to even throwing in a smattering of diamonds to liven up things.
Open this huge bonnet here, and what greets you will certainly delight you. A gigantic V12 6-litre petrol engine which churns out 624 brake horsepower. In fact, this is the most powerful Rolls-Royce in the market today. Remember that famous advertising tagline from the 60s which made Rolls-Royce so famous? It's said that at 60 miles an hour, the only sound comes from the electric clock on the dashboard. And even after half a century, this is so true of a Rolls-Royce. In this Wraith here, you hardly hear a thing. In fact, you have to look into the tachometer here to make out if the engine is running. But step on the gas and it's another story instantly. The huge 6.6-litre petrol engine races to 100 kilometers in just under 5 seconds. It's quite a pleasure to drive this Rolls-Royce Wraith. It's quiet, it's powerful, and in spite of its huge size, it's quite easy to drive.
The monstrous V12 engine is mated to an 8-speed automatic gearbox, which in turn gets its directions from a satellite it is hooked onto to give an advanced readout of the road conditions even before the driver sees it, to enable it to smoothly slot in the gears. If you thought Rolls-Royce lacked state-of-the-art technology, then this simple gearbox operation should clear your mind about this. Make no mistake, this engine may be hand-assembled, but it is produced using the most advanced manufacturing processes and of course sourcing the best components, and the result is a car which glides rather than drives and makes you wonder what all this business of NVH is all about.
The Wraith might be a different looking Rolls-Royce, but in spirit and in heart, it's a true Rolls-Royce. Okay, it will move many owners from the back seat to the driver's seat, but then that's the USP of the car. It's become more of a driver's car. It's the most driver-friendly Rolls ever made, if I might say so. But then it doesn't really matter, because end of the day, with this spirit of ecstasy riding on the hood, it will get you what it gets every other Rolls owner: plenty of respect.
I was once told by an old Rolls-Royce salesman that he knew his customers instantly. Anyone who would ask the price of a Rolls-Royce surely can't afford one. Rolls-Royce has never been about price. Instead, it has been about whether your position in life deserves a Rolls-Royce. And obviously, if you are in that position, price doesn't matter. But for some ordinary mortals like me, it's curiosity that got the better of me. So I did ask for the price. In India, a staggering ₹6 crores will park the Wraith in your garage, and that's only the starting one. But if you want to order it, then do it early, as there is a long waiting period for this. After all, the list of billionaires is only growing. Coming up next, in wheel spin, we ride one of the fastest production bikes, the Kawasaki Ninja 14R. And on the road, we drive the Hyundai Grand i10 to Coonoor. To 100 in just 2.9 seconds. Zero to 200 in just under 8 seconds. And a top whack of close to over 300 kilometers. 209 brake horsepower, and all this pumped into two wheels via a chassis which is willing to do what you want it to. Well, it's not for nothing that Kawasaki claims the 14R is the fastest production bike of our times. And it does feel fast if you just happen to ride it. The Ninja was born to satiate the biker's need for speed. A machine which will propel you to illegal speeds in a matter of nanoseconds with its quick acceleration and instant throttle response. Consequently, the Ninja from Kawasaki became one of the best-known motorcycles in the world of superbikes. And what put the makers of Ninja ahead in the game was one word: fast and faster. And in the late 90s, it was the Kawasaki Ninja ZX14R which became the fastest production bike of its time. But then its homegrown Japanese rivals woke up to the challenge, and even faster machines were produced. But the Ninja endured all this and time and again made its claim of being the fastest production two-wheeler.
Well, the Ninja has been one of the fastest bikes on planet Earth for a while. Then it wasn't, and now again the company claims that this 14R here is the fastest bike that you can ride. But fastest or not really doesn't matter, because I can tell you, if you take the top 3 or 4 bikes which claim to be the fastest, you will realize that what sets them apart is only a few nanoseconds, and you will not be able to even figure that out unless you happen to be a MotoGP rider. But this 14R here is fast, insanely fast, and what she does very well also is to corner really hard. And now it's time for me to do some more riding. This current generation Ninja, this 14R here, is powered by a 4-cylinder engine, 1.4 litre, churns out 205 brake horsepower, and this is mounted on a chassis which just weighs about 278 kgs. So you can easily figure out the power to weight ratio, and this will take you to speeds up over 300 kilometers if you find a straight track. And in this new generation Ninja, the valves here open up much earlier, which means that power delivery is much lower down the rev band, which again means faster acceleration and very, very linear delivery of power. In fact, it's a joy to ride this machine.
The engine is mated to a 6-speed gearbox which does a fine job of slotting in perfectly, and the shifts are smooth and the gearing tall enough. In fact, the Ninja is quite tractable, so if you do manage to get yourself entangled in city traffic, chances are you will get through without working the gearbox real hard. And for stopping, the 14R uses discs in the front and rear along with ABS and traction control, and you can actually change the degree of interference from the traction control depending on how capable a rider you are. And if you are in the league of Valentino Rossi's of the world, you can even completely switch it off. But with my modest riding skills, I chose to opt for the Max, and this did the job quite well. There are also different riding modes equivalent to what you might find in a sports car, and you can go in the regular mode or choose the fast mode to make it go even faster.
Riding a superbike is always a very enjoyable experience, no matter what the time of the year it is or where you are. And riding this ZX14R is no different. It's a sheer pleasure and joy to ride this bike. At the slightest touch of the throttle here, the horses come prancing out of this motor, and this is one motorcycle which is very eager to please you. And the best part is that all this power is fed to a chassis which is very, very nimble. So it's very easy to change directions on this motorcycle and throw it around corners. But a word of caution here, if you haven't ridden a very fast superbike, you do well to cut your teeth on a smaller one, because this can become a little unforgiving at times. But the traction control here is what keeps things very much under control.
On the move, the 14R looks every bit as superbike she is, specially dressed in a dazzling Kawasaki green. The full fairings with air scoops, the stylish side view mirrors, and even the disc brake design grabs a lot of attention and makes it quite a stunning bike to look at.
Kawasaki can easily be credited to have ushered in an era of superbikes, and the Ninja series was the very first of the lot, which actually made superbikes extremely popular and somewhat even affordable. And this 14R here is of course the latest addition to the Ninja range, but things have drastically changed here. It's not the same machine, it's a new generation. Everything in here has changed except for the fact that it still looks like a very attractive superbike with upswept exhaust, nice sculpted tank here, a full fairings, and what it also gets is 2 seats, one for the rear. And if you do happen to find a pillion brave enough to take a ride on this, I'm sure he or she will have a ride of their life.
The 14R is the biggest motorcycle Kawasaki is offering in India, and included in the Ninja series is also the somewhat smaller the ZX10R, the 1000R and the ZX800. But in terms of engine size and sheer presence, it is the 14R which certainly takes the pride of place in a biker's garage.
The big question here is that why would you like to own a superbike, especially in a country like India, where riding itself is a big challenge? The answer to that question is because you have a need for speed, and that's the reason why you want to ride a superbike. And if that's what you're looking for, then this Ninja ZX14R will do the job perfectly for you. This is a machine which gets A in almost every department, be it the looks, be it the ride or the handling. The only area where she fails to score much is in terms of pricing. Okay, superbikes are expensive, but at 19 lakhs, this kind of beats most superbikes available.
I've been on the road for a while now. I left Bangalore a few days ago and my first stop was Mysore. After spending some time taking in the beauty and tradition of the city of Mysore, I drove up to the charming hill station of Ooty. After a day's stay there, I'm now ready to drive to nearby Coonoor, set amidst the greenery of the scenic Nilgiri hills. Throughout this trip, my travel companion has been the trusted Hyundai Grand i10, a car you would love to drive on a long trip.
It's time for me to get going once again, but I'm always excited to be on the road, especially when what I have on my hands could easily be regarded as one of the most drivable cars on Indian roads, the Hyundai Grand i10. Now today I'm off to Coonoor to spend a wonderful day amidst the greenery of the Nilgiris. And while this car definitely looks cute, it's also perfect because of its compact size to navigate the winding hilly roads. So time for me to get going. The Grand i10 is great on fuel efficiency, and the engine is smooth and quiet, yet has enough power for easy overtaking. So it's a pleasure to be behind the wheel.
Driving through the hills can be tedious at points because of the narrow winding uphill roads. But the natural beauty more than makes up for the slow climb. Coonoor is under an hour's drive from Ooty and is perhaps even greener. It's about 7 or 8 hours away when driving from Bangalore and a very pleasant option for a long weekend escape. Once you arrive in Coonoor, the sight that will greet you is acres and acres of tea plantations. And this is what gives Coonoor its unique beauty. So it's time for me to make my first stop at one of them.
Coonoor is pretty much synonymous with tea plantations. The hills here are like rolling carpets of green, and they occupy 200 acres, producing 5,000 kilos of tea per acre per year. Now you can learn here about the process of tea making, right from picking the right leaves to brewing the perfect cup. And you can also sample locally grown teas and buy something to take home with you.
After an enjoyable visit to the tea estate, it's time to explore Coonoor further and take in the sights of the surrounding hills. One place that provides a gorgeous view of the Nilgiris is Dolphin's Nose Lookout Point.
A trip to any hill station would be incomplete without a stop at some of the best viewing points. So I've come to Coonoor's Dolphin's Nose, which provides magnificent views of the Nilgiris as well as of the St. Catherine Falls in the distance. Now you can trek here or just take in the views. It's about 12 kilometers from the city centre and definitely worth a stop.
A few kilometers before Dolphin's Nose lies Lamb's Rock, another scenic viewing point. If you like trekking, you can make your way up the hills and across the tea plantations, taking in the scent of eucalyptus that wafts from the leaves of the tall trees that surround you. After taking in the beautiful views, it's time for me to see how good I am at recognizing plants and flowers. A walk in Sims Park is what I had in mind next.
I've come to wonder about the beautiful Sims Park to see how many flower species I can possibly name myself. Now this park is a wonderful combination of botanical garden and recreational lawn, so there's lots to do here. It was built over a century ago and it takes the form of the hills, so it's really unusual in its terrain. It's really worth a visit.
Upper Coonoor's 12-hectare Sims Park is a peaceful haven of manicured lawns sloping down to a small lake with more than 1,000 varieties of plants and flowers. It's a popular spot for botanists with one of India's most diverse collections of plant species. If you're a photography enthusiast, the gardens are a great location for some beautiful outdoor shots. Coonoor is a peaceful, quiet place which will charm you with its beauty and laid-back way of life. A place where you can come for a long weekend to get away from the frantic pace of everyday life in a city. So if you need a scenic break from urban chaos, then I would strongly recommend Coonoor. But as all good things come to an end, it's now time for me to head back home.
I've had a wonderful time amidst the greenery that is so abundant in Coonoor. In fact, my whole cluster of road trips around South India have been such a delight. And it's been all the more fun because of the Hyundai Grand i10. It's been a pleasure to drive around the Nilgiris, but now it's time for me to go back to Bangalore to catch my flight to Mumbai. But I'm sure another exciting road trip awaits me, so I hope to catch you next week.